Finance Committee meeting to order. On roll call, Mr. Cassidy,
Yes.
Santa this evening, Mr. Podak,
Yes.
and myself. All committee members are present. I'd ask for a motion to approve the digital minutes of the that would be November meeting.
So moved.
And I will second. On roll call, Mr. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Podak,
Yes.
and myself. The meeting minutes have been approved. Reports, Finance Director?
I did send out this afternoon the November reports. At the end of November, we did have $22.8 million in the bank. Of that, we had about $12 million in our general fund. Of the $12 million in the general fund, 1.2 million of that has already been encumbered, so it's sitting in open POs. The same is true if you look at the water fund on our combined report. You'll see that our water fund has 2.4 million, of which 656,000 has already been encumbered. And in the sewer fund, 2.1 million and 350,000 of that has been encumbered. So we're doing well. Our revenues are meeting and for the most part are higher than forecasted throughout. If you were to look at the bottom line on the revenue report, it says we've collected 80 in the general fund. I'm sorry. If you look at the general fund, it would say we're collected 83% of our revenues. And that's a little misleading because there's a large amount of advances that, one, we didn't have to fund to other funds and get paid back. When they get paid back, they show up as revenue. The reality is we should be at 92% as you look at what's been collected. And if you go through the general fund, we're almost at 97% when you take out the advances. And the reason it is significantly higher than expected is because of the interest. We do not forecast interest very aggressively, and we're well over what we receive versus what we forecasted.
Good news.
I don't know if you want to talk about tonight's agenda now or later. There's a number of pieces of legislation being presented. The blanket purchase order legislation is just to amend that legislation so that we're not limited to the 3 months and the $150,000 or the $150,000 or $50,000 limitation that currently exists for utilities. We know we're going to pay gas, we're going to pay electric, we're going to pay phone and internet, and we've defined those in the legislation and allowed those to be exempted from that cap so we can issue a PO once a year just for clarity purposes.
In view of the fact on that piece of legislation, we're so close to the end of the year, it would just make sense that we just go ahead and pass it under emergency.
If you would be so inclined, I would appreciate that. My team would appreciate that, but it's not required. But there are some pieces of legislation that will need to be suspended tonight. The Safe Routes to School new fund, because we want to be able to load the budgets into that new fund for January 1st. The same with the fund for the tax incentive district. Those are both up for second readings, but if you could suspend the third reading on those and act on those tonight, it would be appreciated. The same holds true for the sewer rates so that those could go into effect January 1st. So there is a number of pieces that have had the first reading, but we don't have enough time left in the year to get all three readings in. So I would request that you consider suspending that third reading on those and pass them through the emergency process.
Thank you. Mr. Manel? Anything for the committee?
I have nothing.
Mr. Keckler?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. All right. That being said, we'll open it to committee members if they have any business they want to bring forth.
I think we really ought to discuss a little bit our meeting
Yeah, I have an update here. You're talking about the,
meeting of the 10th.
yeah, the financial planning. I have a report to provide on that. I guess we'll go ahead and get started with those things, and if I don't cover something, then you can jump in after the fact. So I have brought a few things this evening. The first is, as you mentioned, council will be approving sewer rates or asked to approve sewer rates. And if you recall last year, we put out the Q&A for folks that don't necessarily understand how those funds need to be managed and how rates come to be calculated. And at that time, I had gone out and compared ourselves with some neighboring districts, and we did that through the Ohio Water Development Authority. They have, they collect self-reporting from communities who have a loan with them. So those cities have to report their average residential water bill and sewer bill. And I believe the last numbers I had were maybe 22. So I went out and collected the data for the self-reported information for 2024. And even though this does not impact the decision that the city makes or that we as council make regarding the rates that we charge for sewer and water, I like to look at this just because it tells me if we are within the range of our neighbors, if Fostoria residents are paying similar rates to those people around us. So I'll just go down through these for those who are in attendance. On sewer in 2024, Bowling Green reported that the average residential bill was $20.34. Bowling Green is the lowest in both of these categories, by the way. Cary was at $29.85, Fostoria $32.23, Fremont $33.30, Tiffin is $104.06, and Upper Sandusky is $50.65. Among those cities, Fostoria ranks the fourth lowest of the six. Findlay did not have a sewer figure to promote, and they don't have to report that to them because they don't have any debt with them on that. On the sewer or on the water side of things, Bowling Green is $14.23, again, the lowest among those surveyed. Cary did not have to report water rates. Findlay was at $25.50. Fostoria was at $23.82. Fremont, $41.18. Tiffin didn't have to report on water, and Upper Sandusky was $35.84. So again, in that case, Fostoria was ranked the fourth lowest of the five that had to report to OWDA. So again, those rates can impact the decision we make, but as council goes to approve sewer rates tonight, I think it's always helpful to know how we look compared to our neighbors. So I wanted to share that with the committee. The next thing I wanted to share was an update of the Fostoria Financial Planning and Oversight Committee, which is what Santa mentioned a few minutes ago. The Financial Planning and Oversight Committee met just last week, I believe it was, and they took action to adopt the revised recovery plan that was approved by City Council in November. The committee also discussed its desire to initiate the termination report process that is required to exit fiscal emergency. Cindy McCafferty, the financial supervisor with the Auditor of State's Office, advised the committee that the termination report must be based on year-end financial balances. And as a result, the committee was unable to take formal action to begin the process at its December meeting. The committee, therefore, will reconvene on Wednesday, February 4th at 9 a.m. to review year-end financials, and if those balances are deemed viable, they will take action to initiate the termination report process. The commission believes the city has met its and is maintaining the objectives required to exit this designation, and they would like to get the ball rolling on this as they believe it is instrumental that we begin the recruitment process for a future finance director. With that in mind, and feel free to add anything I may have missed, anyone in attendance, I would like to start a discussion with this group about that next step on recruitment of a finance director into the future, because we know we've expressed that we would like to have some time for that person to be with Steve, and so that we can carry forward the good work that's being done. I'm not sure how this process works. It's a hire by council, but I kind of feel like maybe it's Finance Committee's responsibility to come out with a recommendation that we feel it's time to start that process. And I don't know what the proper protocol is.
That makes 4 of us. But something to consider, I believe one route to go would be to go ahead and post the finance director's position as open. And as we identify candidates, once we identify a candidate, they can roll into that finance director, and I can take some other title as an independent consultant. And that way they know what the job description is. I know what I'm training them towards, and we can give them that authority knowing that they're going to be in training. And if the reality is this, if we can get them in early in the year, it's very realistic that I could actually lower the contract in terms of once we get them up and running, not be very active in like maybe July and August. When we start the budget season, come back in and help and be very supportive in that process and go back to the original contract terms at that point. In other words, try to save the city some money. I believe we'll probably find some good candidates, and it's not going to take 9 months to train them. It just won't if they're the right candidate. But I don't need to be here for all of that. And by the same token, I don't need to bill for that time either. But I would come back and help with the budget process because that can be Eric's overwhelmed me in that process this year. And I'm not going to let him do that to the next person.
Are you saying he's been a bad boy?
Oh, there you go.
Under that thought, you're giving the new finance director a safety net instead of hiring them, putting them in the job, doing some training, and then basically if they fall off that high wire, they're going to hit concrete. If we have the safety net, that could be a savings to the city long term if we had any hiccups.
Absolutely. And that the new finance director will have 2 safety nets. They'll have myself, and they'll still have the auditor of state while we're in fiscal emergency. And the other thing the city could consider is a contract with the auditor of state administrative services. If mine were to expire or you decided to just let that go, there is always that safety net. And I'll be honest with you, that will be a more economical path to go down. The difference is they haven't sat in the job day to day and know the day-to-day operations, but it is a safety net for that finance director if I'm long gone. So there's 2 ways to support that person. We will set them up for success. Let's put it, nobody's going to come in here and fail. It won't happen. Not going to happen.
I'm not so thrilled about that last option, to be very honest
It's the
with
worst
you.
case scenario.
It is. It's a card that could be played. If you were to post the position, what platforms would you use? Or would we use? We would be the ones posting it.
Well, you got to go through I hate to say it, through some of the normal, like Indeed, and things of that, but I think word of mouth and networking is a great tool. I mean, as we're out and about letting people know that there are opportunities within the city, if you have a finance background and it's something you're interested in, we have an opportunity. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had some internal candidates. So But I think word of mouth is probably better than Indeed, but you have to use those sources to at least start to develop a pool.
Um,
Review times, I'm sure, could help us out.
working along the treasure searches that I do. I view this from kind of going, if you want the best candidate, going at it strategically as well, and maybe like creating a brochure or a fact sheet, you know, telling a little about our community and the position and where we have been and where we are.
Mhm.
And along with that, generally we would provide a timetable for candidates to know what our intent is as far as filling the position and a salary range. That makes me think that we should do some legwork before we actually do the posting, specifically looking at a job description, making sure that it doesn't need updated in some way, shape, or form. Do a salary study and benefit study, perhaps, from just neighboring areas, you know, a competitive pool. And then I personally think you could send those out either through maybe a GFOA
Yeah, I was just going to
email
recommend
addresses. We wouldn't
GFOA.
even have
Yep.
to do mailings by hand, but we could do a nice brochure, I'll just call it that, and send it out by email to some of those places. I think we try to get the best candidates available.
That brings me to my question. We definitely got the best candidate now, if we could
Yep.
possibly got, and it's a contract employee. Are we looking at, or are we open to another contract?
It's a great question.
Pros and cons to that.
Well, it's usually dictated by the person that's on that side.
Mhm.
So,
I think for long-term stability, an employed finance director, um, which is probably more fair to the team. I mean, the people around you want that stability. They don't want somebody that may only be here for 2 or 3 years and, oh, here we go again. And the knowledge transfer gets diluted every time you change over, especially if it's a short-term assignment. So it might be cheaper in the long run, depending on how you structure it, but I don't know that it would be necessarily best for the city.
cheap's not always the best way to go. Eric?
I know the Ohio Municipal League has, let's see what it's called. It's an association of municipal finance directors, and they have a classified ad section that advertises to Ohio finance people.
Okay.
That's free to OML members, of which we are a member of OML, that we could put it for a 30-day ad in that. And that one, I was just double checking to make sure that they had a classified ad section. So that might be another avenue to get out there to professionals who are maybe somebody's assistant or something that we're looking for a job like this, where we could wait till like 27 and start. I mean, it's up to you. It's just an option. Took me this long to train you.
Ain't bad again.
Well, I would suggest that we at least bring this topic up to council, because while I think it's our recommendation that we begin this process, we don't really have the authority to do that. It would be a council decision, but maybe we could bring that up, and maybe if they want us to lead on it, we could. But we would need somebody to probably,
And just so you understand the timeline, my contract expires in October. So I don't think we want to sit and wait till June to get our arms around it.
but it would be very helpful to have that action taken in February so that so candidates are aware that even though we may be technically in fiscal emergency status that's not reflective of where we are. And that will, right. And that we've begun that process to eliminate that.
I think the
That label.
finance committee should probably, like you said, promote it to the council as a whole. But at the same time, we're pretty blessed to have you, who's already aware of a lot of the ins and outs and the job description. And we need to relook at that before it's brought, I think, to the council as
Yeah.
a whole to vote on. So
Yeah, I would agree.
between you and Safety Service Director, the mayor, and Steve, and if you want somebody, I'll volunteer too, but I think we need to tweak that, get it out there as soon as possible. I don't see any reason why we can't start this at least the second meeting in January.
Yeah, I would agree if we get moving on it. I doubt that that job description needs much work. I'm pretty sure it probably got looked at for you.
Actually, it was developed for my role because if you remember in the past, it was elected. So I'm the first appointed. And when you guys went through that process of determining how do we appoint, what's that going to look like, that job description was developed at that time. So it's been developed within the last 2.5, 3 years.
Right. It might just need to look different since if it's not going to be a contracted employee,
Right.
you know, the evaluation process might look different, for example, or.
Okay.
All right. That is all I brought this evening. Does anybody else have anything else they wish to add?
Well, getting back to getting out of the financial emergency, I'm not sure that people really grasp the importance of the legislation. This beer's bothering me. The legislation that was enacted here a few months ago that has provisions for the what-if type situations, scenarios, basically, or sets limits and defines exactly what the city will do or what council will do, what action to remedy those things. I'm not sure that in our meeting with the state that they fully grasp A, the importance of that, B, the fact that we were proactive. I think that was your idea, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it was. We were proactive in potentially avoiding a problem down the road. I think that this pretty much should make the state very comfortable that we're taking this very serious and we're also examining ways to safeguard our future. So
That definitely at the commission meeting, the what ifs came up. What if, something happens with real estate taxes? What if, there's a decline in employment? And we're prepared to deal with that because the council passed that policy at the last meeting. And I think that puts us in a better position than most communities. Because we have a what if, well, this is what we're going to do. So
it makes this body more disciplined.
I would agree.
Kind of along that line, in looking over the month-to-date bank report, I noticed that Star Ohio Investments, we've got 5.5 million with them, and then U.S. Bank Red Tree, we've got 8.8 million. But so that's 3.3 million more in Red Tree, and we actually took in $3,000 less of interest. Is that a case of when the interest is paid to us? Or is the Star Ohio investment account earning a lot more or a lot higher percentage than our Red Tree?
I don't know for sure. I'll have to get back to you on it. And the only reason I'm hesitant, I believe the short-term rates are still higher than the long-term. In Star Ohio and West Banco, MMA is all short-term rates. And we've invested the portfolio with Red Tree with a longer
Right.
time horizon. So I think that's probably the reflection of
I'm
short-term versus long-term rates
pretty
right now.
sure you're right. I'm just saying, you know, it's good that we have the long-term rates locked in, but who would have thought that the short-term rates would have stayed this high for this long?
Well,
I didn't.
they're going down 4 times next year is one article I read. So, but the thing to consider when we have Red Tree back here, when we have Ryan back here in January or February, one thing to talk about is, do we move some of the short-term money into some longer-term investments? We got to be careful because next year we have a lot of projects and a lot of need for cash, so we can't really get too aggressive with the long-term portfolio. But if there's a way to squeeze another 500 or 750,000 into the long-term portfolio, we may want to consider it.
Makes sense because also the West Banco is virtually almost the same as the Star Ohio, and the interest earnings are virtually about identical.
Yeah, and they match rates. West Banco agreed to match the Star Ohio.
Great. Anything else? Okay, if not, I'll just announce that the next Finance Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in council chambers. And I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn?
Second,
And on roll call, Mr. Cassidy,
yes.
Mr. Podak,
Yes.
and myself. We are adjourned at 5:56.